Hi, and welcome to my video on how much it really costs to pursue ADIT or Advanced Diploma in International Taxation from the start to the end using different options. So this video is recorded in the beginning of 2024, so if you're watching in the following years, you may want to check the ADIT website or Chartered Institute of Taxation website to make sure that the numbers I present here are still relevant. But let's go through the general logic of how much it costs. So the real answer to this question depends on your approach to studying. It depends on if you will go with full self-study option, or will you be buying any study materials, will you be subscribing to courses, etc., etc. And we will just go through all those different options in a second. But I will just share one simple hint or tip that you need to explore. Make your employer sponsor your ADIT. That's the easiest way to reduce your personal cost to zero. And some employers will be happy to sponsor it. Larger organizations like Big Four companies, many advisory firms, as well as multinationals will be happy to sponsor their professional development, the development of their employees, and you may even find some ADIT fees or guides, that internal guides that will give you details on what are the terms and conditions of that sponsorship. For example, for when I worked for Royal Dutch Shell, the rules were that I had to subscribe to the exam myself and pay for all the initial costs, but once I passed the exam successfully, I could refund all of that from Shell. So that's one option. Many firms may give you a grant and proactively pay for your courses and preparation for a couple of trials on the exam. Just make sure you review that and discuss with your line manager. That's the best way to go. But of course, maybe you are an independent advisor or your firm doesn't want to sponsor the cost, but you still want to go with the ADIT certification, and then it becomes even more relevant for you. So let's just break this down. What are the mandatory fees and more or less mandatory materials? So CIOT fees for 2024 is 235 British pounds, which is a little bit more than US dollars, for student registration. What that means is that you need to pay this once, and then you become an ADIT student. And as of 2024, this status, you're getting it for 5 years. So for 5 years, you are the ADIT student, and it is expected that you will pass the exam in 5 years. So that's the expectation. That's the one-off cost that you are having. Then you are paying £215 per exam. And also notice that ADIT or CIOT sometimes have this early fee, which means that the fee may depend on when you register for the exam. The earlier you register, you might get a little bit of lower fee. So check their website for the most up-to-date fees. At the moment then you're registering, and they're generally trying to make people register earlier, basically. But the base fee is £215 per exam, and you need to take 3 exams, which means that you are paying £880 total for the qualification over 2 to 3 years. That's typically how long it takes to pass the exam. Watch my other video about how long it takes to get ADIT certification, but on average that's around £880 British pounds over 2 to 3 years, which is not a huge amount, even if you don't get a sponsorship. But if you get a sponsorship, that's even better. Is this all? Well, the answer depends, and that's where you start getting different options, right? So this cost is a minimum cost. You must pay it because otherwise you won't get certified. But you have different study methods, what we can call, and then depending on the method that you're choosing, you can get different additional cost. For example, as a minimum, of course you can use electronic materials and not get any printed books at all. But generally for the ADIT exam sitting, you would be prompted or asked to bring the original source of the study material, or sorry, not the study material, but permitted text. So that's the other thing that you can also watch another video about. And then the typical study material would include things like OECD guidelines, Model Tax Convention, and a few other things. And then the biggest benefit is of buying Van Rad's Volume A book. It is only £85, and it includes OECD guidelines and Model Tax Convention and a few other things. Therefore, by buying one book, you are getting a lot in that price, and you will also use it during the exam as a permitted text. So you're just killing two birds with one stone. But that's again, like, that's a minimum thing. So like once you paid for your registration, probably Van Rad will be the next cost that you will incur. Of course, you can go with buying OECD guidelines and Model Tax Convention separately and a few other things, but Van Rad is just accumulation of all those things in one book and lower priced, because I think OECD guidelines would be, as of today, like more than $100 on its own. And I don't know if you can buy Model Tax Convention as of now. Probably you can, again, another $100. So getting with Van Rad will be saving you a lot of money. And then from there you can prepare yourself basically, but that may be pretty challenging for many of us. And that's why you would typically also buy courses to prepare for the exam. And then the prices there vary. So I will give you my price point. My standard price is €750 per transfer pricing preparation course, which prepares you for one exam, right? So there are other options on the market, but the price I think that I charge is pretty small comparing to other courses of the similar quality. And then for other exams like Principles of International Taxation and let's say you pick Energy Resources or VAT exam, that price of the course would be somewhere between 700 to 2,000 euro per course. Pretty expensive courses, I must say. So realistically, if you fully self-study and we add back the courses, the ADIT qualification costs, then we're looking at something around £1,000 for, again, 2 to 3 years period if you pass that in 3 years, but you can take it for 5 years. I don't think that probably cost is your biggest factor to consider in terms of the length of your qualification, but again, maybe it is. So £1,000, realistic, fully self-study cost. If you buy courses and good preparation materials, which I strongly advise for, the reason is that you will save a lot of time and that will be much less stressful, and you will learn potentially even more with good preparation materials. That cost can go up to even 4,000. But again, typically corporations and advisory firms where you probably work for, will sponsor your preparation materials too, and your courses for preparation for the exam. So check out your internal guidelines, budgets, discuss with your line manager, with your HR department, with your learning department, and find out what they can offer to you. In my course, I get like probably 60% of the costs that my students incur are getting refunded by their employees, and of course there are 40% of like independent people or enthusiasts of international tax that just want certification without sponsorship, also fine. But yeah, check it out. And then the last thing is, like, if you want to spend substantially less time on preparing for the exam, then as I mentioned, taking a course can be a very, very good option. And moreover, it's not just about saving your time, but getting less stressed and substantially increasing your chances of success, or your return on your time spent is much higher with good course. And my course, if you visit www.starttax.com, you will see the course that I have developed for transfer pricing. 98% of students that I had passed the exam from the first try, which means that it is a very good course that will, if you take it and put on hard work, of course, on going through the materials, will for sure guarantee that you pass the exam from the first try on transfer pricing. Thank you and bye for today.